Hi guys, I'm here today and we're talking about CrossFit. I have Nathan Evans here, who is an aspiring strength conditioning coach, CrossFit coach, and also competes at CrossFit as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Nathan?
So I've just finished my degree as a Bachelor's in Science in Sports Performance and Coaching.
Yeah.
And now I'm just kind of building up all my knowledge from that, just trying to do as much course as I can, access as much resource as I can and learn about that, and trying to apply that to both my clients, people I train and coach, and to myself. So for my own contest that I'm prepping for. So mainly building up to next year's CrossFit Open, to the main goal.
Perfect.
Regions.
Now I think we'll kick off with diet to start with. Big fan of diet, and I know I've spoken about it in a few videos. I know you've tried a few diet protocols before, paleo, zone dieting. Just briefly explain what they are, how they affected you, your performance, etc.
So I come from a rugby background, so you kind of get ingrained in you to have this really big high carb sort of thing that's going to give you the main source of energy, and I had that for a while and my performance wasn't very good and I felt quite lethargic all the time, stuff like that. Body composition wasn't where it should be.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got into CrossFit, and CrossFit has this big paleo like marketing which really pushed upon people when they get into it. And I made the mistake of just getting straight into paleo. So cutting everything out of my diet, so grains and dairy, and then just living off everything that the paleo diet prescribes.
Yeah.
And it was really good up until about the 4-week mark.
Yeah.
Where then I started to get really tired again, performance went down, and on 6 weeks I kind of just had a really big sort of crash and burn, like injuries, joints really painful, couldn't sleep. From there, knew something was going wrong, went onto the zone diet. That was probably the best one I've done, and that's something that's kind of like the mainstay of my diet now.
Okay, so for people that don't know, what is the zone diet?
The zone diet kind of splits your macros into 40% carbs, 40% protein and 30% fat, and each meal is portioned in a way and measured so you get the ultimate sort of hormonal response. So you're going to promote energy.
Okay.
And I found that one's been the best for me, because it's kind of like that middle ground, isn't it? Like paleo is like really low carb, the other one was really high carb.
Yeah.
And from the main thing I've taken away from paleo though is what my body responds well to.
Yeah.
And that is, and doesn't respond well to. So gluten's out and dairy's out. And that's the things that ever since I've cut them out, my performance has really sort of skyrocketed, and just like well-being, energy levels.
Yeah. I mean, regarding diet and things like that anyway, I think it's trial and error with anything. There's no set generic guide to say what works for you and what doesn't. I mean, it's keeping in good things that you do find that work for you and taking out something that doesn't. Now, regarding things that you change, I would suggest subtle changes, one thing at a time, so you know what works and what doesn't work, so you can keep it in and out.
Yeah, don't just go for that whole, today I'm paleo, today I'm intermittent fasting, today I'm this. You've got to kind of just try the little things, because otherwise you don't know what's working really.
Exactly. So regarding that now, what have you gone on to currently diet-wise at the moment?
At the moment, it's kind of, I tried like intermittent fasting, and again, that one didn't really work, because my goals are all performance based.
Yeah.
And you're trying to run like really high intense activities on like not much. You've got nothing in your system. You need all those substrates for fuel. I tried that for a while, it didn't really work. Recently, I've tried more sort of, so taking in my carbs. I train twice a day, taking in the majority of my carbs after training, so in that anabolic window, trying to like get the glycogen straight into the muscle. So
almost backloading.
Yeah, it's kind of like backloading, but I think it's more being metabolically flexible. Okay. So you're going into workouts with stable hormone levels, and then when you've got that, when your body's going to be like most receptive to like glycogen.
So you are doing cycling principles then?
Yeah, so basically cycling.
Oh, cool.
That's been like a really, really effective as well. That's worked really well for me.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned me before how you don't really get on with gluten and stuff like that. Again, a point is, if you do have problems with your joints and stuff, it could be down to a few reasons. You're not getting enough fish oils in your diet. Try taking out gluten. That will help your joints. You won't get any inflammation.
I think that's been like a big thing lately. I've seen loads of elite level athletes, especially strength athletes, like Olympic weightlifters and stuff like that. just their strength going up as well.
Yeah.
You can train. You don't have all this information and stuff. You have to train
Yeah.
a lot more frequently.
Again, saying that, there's always an exception to the rule. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not one set way to say this works with it. Some people will not be affected by gluten at all. And it's just different protocols again. So find out what works, what doesn't work, and then kind of move on from there. Now, regarding your training currently, you briefed on it a minute ago that you split. You do a couple of sessions a day. Now, how do you go, or how do you attack your program to improve your endurance, your strength, all in one go?
Yeah, because we got to like essentially be good at everything, haven't we? So all these different demands.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what I do my training split in the morning is at the moment, even in the morning, is going to be all my Olympic lifting and strength work.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon, it's going to be some skill work and then all my sort of conditioning stuff. And I find that works well because I kind of have the energy to hit 2 workouts hard.
Right.
Instead of being in the gym for like 3 hours, and then like the last sort of hour and a half, you're just kind of ticking through the motions. You can go home, recover, do whatever you need to do, come back in and sort of hit it hard.
Would you have any rest days at all?
Yeah, so I train 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. And when I say 1 day off, one of those days would just be a day of like going in the gym, just setting up a load of things and just working on any skills and weaknesses, any movements I need to just really, really like for like an hour, really focusing on mobility, try and get a massage, try and get out to like a sauna and stuff like that.
So obviously your sport is a performance sport, so would you be in a calorie surplus every day for your BMR, or?
That's a really interesting question because I think you have to be flexible, and that's the whole thing, isn't it? Being flexible, because one day you're gonna do a lot more, and one day you're not gonna do as much. So say like one day's more skill based, it's not as high intensity, just working on skills, isn't it? So are you gonna have to have as many calories on that day? You're not going to, because it is performance based, but we can't afford to put on extra weight because we've got to move that weight somehow, and that's gonna more power, isn't it? So you don't want to waste energy and power.
Yeah, and I'll say a point as well, which I used to know when you were coming up early part of maybe last year, thinking that about performance as well as aesthetics. Now, I think you change your diet accordingly now that with your training, if you're training hard enough, aesthetics is a byproduct from what you do anyway.
I think that like a big thing that people try and focus on when they go into performance sports is, what about my aesthetics as well? And that's really hard to focus. Like if you're in a calorie deficit, you're not going to have the energy to perform your best. I think I'd rather now have the energy to go in, hit workouts hard, and I've found ever since then my body composition has improved from doing that, instead of worrying all the time about I need to have this much or my body's going to be this way and that way. So
yeah, I think as well with the whole CrossFit, people have been slating CrossFit, etc. Now, I don't think there's such thing as it being bad as opposed to bad coaching. If you're lifting correctly and etc., keeping your technique sharp and lifting and performing for your capabilities is absolutely fine. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
I think it is that it's like CrossFit at its roots is all about really, really like perfecting human movement.
Yeah.
So if you can really like aim to chase that and perfect human movement, then you're not going to have a problem. And you'll probably find if you're going into it and you've got an injury, and then say for example the squat, so you've got bad back problems, you go and squat, it highlights those areas you need to work on, and you probably end up getting rid of that injury. So I think this whole to do with like CrossFit is going to get you injured and stuff like that, I think it comes from more poor practice and maybe people being given the wrong information and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so for people that are getting into CrossFit, what would your advice be for them, and for people who do currently do it and want to improve upon?
Really focus well on the basics, like to really try and master the basics.
Yeah.
So the fundamentals of it, it's something ever since I've done my level 1, like I've gone back to doing, like really just trying to like master the absolute basics and the positions of every movement.
Yeah.
If like even people who have been doing it for ages, if you can go and get better at your movement, you're going to be much more effective at producing power. You're not going to waste power through like crappy movements, sort of.
So maybe like 1 step back but 2 steps forward.
Yeah. It's that whole thing like Olympic weightlifting. There's people that are like can lift loads more than me, but my strength numbers are higher, but their technique's like absolutely sound. That's something I did about 3 months ago. Went back, just totally relearned how to Olympic weightlift and redo something I'm doing now. Just continually trying to perfect movements like with like no weight on the bar. just
Yeah.
perfect, just that, and that's going to really help.
So you mentioned earlier as well that you're looking at competing in the CrossFit Games next year.
Yeah.
Open, yeah. Sorry. What's your strategy leading up to that?
I think at the moment it's again, like I said, I've really tried to go back and focus on all the basics, doing all the basics work, and then my performance has gone up from there.
Yeah.
My main goals are really going to be improve my Olympic lifting. That's something I need to improve on, and just build an engine really. Just trying to build an engine, but with efficient movement like patterns, so you can keep going with efficient movement patterns. I'm just trying to peak for the Open, and then because for me, like I need to get through the Open to go to regionals. And there's some absolutely sick athletes out there in Europe now, so just trying to hold myself up with those guys.
Cool. So just to summarise everything we've just been over, you would recommend eating a good, healthy diet, balanced diet in a surplus to aid that performance.
Yeah.
Going back to basics.
Not necessarily a surplus, like meeting your demands.
Right.
So you're being the whole thing
So
of being
energy
flexible.
expenditure.
Like I take away from this video being flexible to meet that day.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best way to do it.
And then you mentioned on technique, getting back to grassroots, make sure your lifting and everything is sound to progress further.
Yeah. Whether you've been doing it for ages or you're just coming into it, like make your positions perfect before you move on to adding speed and weight onto them. That's the best advice I can give.
Cool. Well, that we'll wrap it up there. That brings us to the end of the CrossFit kind of a section. If you've got any questions, etc., you can leave a comment below, like, subscribe. You can ask me any questions. You can either hit me up on Twitter at BBDMRN or on Facebook at David Rowe. Where can they get hold of you, Nath?
Same thing really. You can either leave it on Dave's, ask me Dave's, or ask me on Twitter, which is NateDoggy07GTL, or on Facebook, just Nathan Evans. Just private message me.
Cool. CrossFit. See you later.